The slap of her words hit harder than any physical blow ever could. The crystal chandeliers of the Grand Plaza Hotel ballroom seemed to shake with the vibration of her scream. "You're too poor to sit with us." My daughter-in-law, Tiffany, didn't just say it, she shrieked it, her face twisted in a mask of pure disgust, pointing a manicured finger at my chest as if I were a stray dog that had wandered into a royal banquet. 150 guests froze. The string quartet stopped playing mid-note. The silence that followed was so thick, so heavy, it felt like it was crushing the air out of my lungs. I stood there, clutching my worn leather handbag, the one I've had for 15 years, feeling the heat rise up my neck. I looked at my son, David, my beautiful boy, who I had carried, raised, and sacrificed everything for. He was standing right next to her in his $3,000 tuxedo. And he did nothing. He looked at his polished shoes, adjusting his cufflinks, pretending I wasn't there. Pretending his mother wasn't being humiliated in front of everyone he knew. "Please, Tiffany," I whispered, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to stay strong. "I just wanted to wish you happiness. It's the family table. I'm David's mother." "Exactly," she hissed, leaning in close so only the nearby tables could hear the venom in her voice. "Look at you, Martha. That dress looks like you pulled it out of a donation bin. You smell like mothballs and poverty. We have investors here. We have important people. You are not ruining my photos with your sad gray existence. Get out of my sight." She snapped her fingers at a waiter. "Put her in the back, near the kitchen, and make sure she stays there." I didn't fight. I didn't scream back. I simply nodded, swallowed the lump of broken glass in my throat, and followed the waiter. As I walked past the tables of laughing, wealthy strangers, I felt their eyes on me. Pity, amusement, disdain. I sat down at a small, wobbly round table pushed against the swinging doors of the kitchen. The smell of old grease and sanitizer wafted out every time a server rushed through. There was no centerpiece here, no champagne flute, just me and my old purse. But as I sat there, watching my son laugh with Tiffany's wealthy father across the room, I tightened my grip on my bag. Because inside that bag wasn't just tissues and mints. There was a phone. And on speed dial was the only man in this room who knew the truth. They thought I was sitting in the shadows because I had no choice. They didn't know I was the one paying for the light. My name is Martha. I am 65 years old. And for the last 10 years, I have lived a lie to protect my son from himself. Today, that lie ends. To understand why I let them treat me like dirt, you have to understand where I came from. I wasn't always this invisible old woman. My husband Robert and I were a team. We were simple people. He was a mechanic. I cleaned houses. We scraped every penny to put David through private school because we wanted him to have the opportunities we never had. When Robert died of a sudden heart attack 12 years ago, my world collapsed. I was left with a modest house, a beat-up sedan, and a plot of rocky, useless land Robert had inherited from his grandfather in Texas. We used to joke about that land. The Dust Bowl, we called it. But 6 months after Robert's funeral, a survey company contacted me. They weren't interested in the dust. They were interested in what was underneath it. Oil, and not just a little bit. I sold the mineral rights for an amount of money that made me dizzy just looking at the check. Then came the developers who wanted the surface land for a commercial hub. By the time the dust settled, the poor widow, Martha, was sitting on a fortune of over $8 million, invested wisely in a diversified trust. I remember the day the money hit my account. I sat in my small kitchen, staring at the peeling wallpaper, and I cried. I cried because Robert wasn't there to see it. And then, I felt fear. I looked at David. He was 22 then, just finishing college. He was a good boy, but I saw how he looked at his rich friends with envy. I saw how he complained about his old car. I knew that if I handed him millions on a silver platter, I would destroy his ambition. I would turn him into someone who expected everything and appreciated nothing. So, I made a choice, a dangerous choice. I kept the money a secret. I decided I would help him from the shadows, pay off his student loans anonymously, set up scholarships for his master's degree. I wanted to see him build his own character. I wanted to be sure that whoever he married loved him for him, not for the bank account I was hiding. I continued to clean houses for a few more years, then retired on my meager Social Security, or so I told everyone. I lived in the same small house. I drove the same car. I shopped with coupons, and it worked for a while. David worked hard. He got a job in finance. He seemed grounded. Then he met Tiffany. Tiffany was dazzling. She came from old money, or at least she acted like it. She worked in PR, drove a leased Mercedes, and treated waiters like furniture. The first time David brought her home, she didn't wipe her feet on the mat. She walked right in with her stilettos, looked around my living room, and wrinkled her nose. "It smells like old soup in here," she said, not even whispering. "Mom's cooking stew," David said, looking embarrassed. Not of her rudeness, but of my stew. "Cute," she said, dropping her designer bag on my dining table without a coaster. "So, David says you used to be a maid? That's fascinating. It must be so hard to find good work these days." "I cleaned homes," I corrected gently. "It was honest work." "Sure," she waved a hand dismissively. "Anyway, David, we can't stay long. My parents are expecting us at the country club. We just stopped by to see." "See what? See if I was worth their time?" Clearly, I wasn't. Over the next 2 years, I watched my son change. He stopped calling on Sundays. When he did visit, it was always to ask for something or to criticize. "Mom, can't you buy a new couch? This one is embarrassing." "Mom, please park your car down the street when you come to our apartment. The neighbors talk." I endured it. I told myself it was just a phase. He was trying to impress her. He would come back to me. But the engagement brought out the worst. Tiffany didn't want a wedding. She wanted a coronation. She demanded the Grand Plaza Hotel. She demanded imported orchids. She demanded a 10-course meal. David came to me one evening, looking pale. "Mom, the wedding. It's going over budget, way over. Her parents are paying for half, but we're short. I was wondering if Dad left anything else. Any savings bonds? Anything?" I looked at him, seeing the panic in his eyes. I wanted to write him a check right there. I could have paid for 10 weddings without blinking. But then I remembered Tiffany's voice on the phone the day before when she didn't know I was listening. He'd better get money out of that old hag, or he's useless. "I have my savings, David," I said softly. "But it's for my old age. You know I don't have much." He slammed his hand on the table. "You're so selfish. You live like a hermit, sitting on Dad's life insurance while I'm trying to start a life. You just want to see me fail, don't you?" He stormed out. I cried for hours. But the next day, I did something I had never done. I called my lawyer, Mr. Harrison. I told him to set up a shell corporation and sponsor the wedding venue. I paid for the ballroom, the catering, the flowers, everything. I did it anonymously, under the guise of a promotional lottery that David supposedly won. I wanted him to have his day. I wanted to give him one last chance to be decent. I was a fool. Back at the reception, the noise of the party was deafening. I sat at my exile table, picking at a cold roll. The waiter hadn't even brought me a full meal. A shadow fell over my table. I looked up. It was Mr. Harrison. He wasn't wearing his lawyer robes, of course. He was in a sharp charcoal Italian suit that probably cost more than Tiffany's dress. He was 60, silver-haired, and carried himself with the quiet authority of a man who could buy and sell this entire hotel. He was the only person I had invited. "May I sit?" he asked, his voice low and respectful. "You're supposed to be at the VIP table, Arthur," I said, gesturing to the front where the important people were. "You shouldn't be seen with the help." He smiled, a tight, dangerous smile. "I prefer the company back here, Martha. The air is cleaner." He sat down, placing a thick leather folder on the sticky table. "Did you hear her?" I asked, looking down at my hands. "Did you hear what she said?" "Every word," Arthur said. His eyes were cold steel. And I saw David say nothing. "Are you ready, Martha? You don't have to do this. We can leave. We can cut them off quietly tomorrow." I looked across the room. Tiffany was standing on a chair now, tapping a spoon against a champagne glass. The room hushed. She looked radiant, beautiful, and absolutely rotten to the core. "Attention, everyone!" she squealed. "Oh, thank you all for coming to celebrate us. I just want to thank my amazing parents, the Millers, for everything they've done. You taught me class, you taught me style." Applause. David stood by her, looking adoringly. "And," she continued, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on the dark corner near the kitchen where I sat. She smirked. "I want to thank David for overcoming his background. It's not easy rising above a mediocre upbringing to join a family of true stature. We all know some people are just dead weight." A few people gasped. Most just chuckled nervously. David didn't flinch. He raised his glass to her. "To the future," she yelled. "To a life of luxury that we deserve." Something snapped inside me. It wasn't rage, it was clarity. It was the realization that the son I raised was gone. He hadn't just been influenced, he had been complicit. He had watched me scrub floors to buy his textbooks, and now he was toasting to my erasure. I looked at Mr. Harrison. "I'm ready." Mr. Harrison nodded. He picked up the leather folder and stood up. He didn't walk to the front. He strode. He moved with a purpose that parted the crowd like the Red Sea. I stood up too. My legs were shaking, but I forced them to move. I followed him, stepping out of the shadows and into the light of the chandeliers. "Excuse me!" Mr. Harrison's voice boomed. He didn't need a microphone. He had a courtroom voice. Tiffany froze on her chair. "Who are you? Sit down. This is a private event." "Is it?" Mr. Harrison asked calmly, reaching the head table. He placed the folder down next to the wedding cake. "I was under the impression that this event was paid for by the Pegasus Trust, a trust that I administer." Tiffany laughed, a shrill, nervous sound. "What? David won a contest. We don't know you. Security." "There is no contest, Mrs. Hughes," Harrison said, his voice dropping to a deadly calm. "The Pegasus Trust is a private family fund. It paid for this room. It paid for the flowers you are holding. It paid for the down payment on the penthouse you moved into last week. And it has been paying off David's credit card debt for the last 3 years." David stepped forward, confusion warring with anger. "Who are you? How do you know about my debts?" "I know," Harrison said, turning to look directly at David, "because I sign the checks, but I don't write them. I simply follow the instructions of the benefactor." "Who?" Tiffany demanded, stepping down from the chair. "Who is the benefactor? Is it my dad? Is it a secret admirer?" Mr. Harrison smiled. He turned slowly and extended a hand towards me. "The sole owner and benefactor of the Pegasus Trust," Harrison announced, his voice ringing through the hall, "is Mrs. Martha Hughes." The silence that fell this time was different. It wasn't the silence of awkwardness. It was the silence of shock, absolute, suffocating shock. Tiffany looked at me. Then she looked at my dress. Then she laughed. "Her? The maid? You've got to be joking. She shops at Goodwill. She drives a rusty Ford. She's nobody." "She," Harrison cut in, sharper than a knife, "is the owner of the mineral rights to the Permian Basin Sector 4. She is a majority shareholder in Harrison and Associates, and she is worth more than everyone in this room combined, including your parents, Tiffany." Tiffany's face went white, like a sheet. She looked at David. "David, is this true?" David was staring at me. His mouth was open, his eyes wide. "Mom, you have money?" I walked forward. I didn't feel small anymore. I felt 10 feet tall. I stopped in front of the head table. I looked at the food I hadn't been allowed to eat. I looked at the flowers I had paid for. "I do," I said quietly. Dad left us land, David. It turned out to be worth a lot. I kept it a secret because I wanted you to build your own life. I wanted you to find a woman who loved you for you, not for a checkbook. I wanted to see if you would take care of your mother because you loved her, or if you would toss her aside like trash the moment you got a taste of the high life. I looked at Tiffany. She was trembling. Her eyes were darting around, calculating, processing. Suddenly her face changed. The sneer vanished. A wobbly, fake smile plastered itself onto her lips. "Oh, Martha!" she exclaimed, reaching out to grab my hands. "Oh my God, why didn't you say anything? This is wonderful. We were just joking earlier. You know my sense of humor. It's just wedding stress. Mom, come, sit here. Move over, Dad. Let Martha sit." She tried to pull me towards the seat of honor. I pulled my hands away as if she had burned me. "Don't touch me," I said. "Mom," David stammered, stepping closer. "Mom, this is... wow. Why did you hide it? We could have. We could have had such a better life. But it's okay. We forgive you. Right, babe? We can. We can start over. The penthouse has a guest room. You can move in. We'll get rid of the Ford. We'll get you a driver." "You don't understand," I said, looking at my son. "There is no we anymore." I nodded to Mr. Harrison. He opened the leather folder and pulled out a single sheet of paper. "This," Mr. Harrison said, holding up the document, "is the revocable living trust agreement that governs the funds used for this wedding and the property you currently reside in. There is a specific clause in the trust. Clause 4B, the Conduct and Character Clause." He adjusted his glasses and read aloud. "Beneficiaries shall only receive support contingent upon demonstrating moral character, respect for family, and integrity. Any act of gross disrespect, public humiliation, or abandonment of the grantor shall result in immediate disqualification." Harrison looked up over his glasses. "The incident regarding the seating arrangements this evening, coupled with the verbal abuse witnessed by myself and 150 guests, constitutes a violation of Clause 4B. "What does that mean?" Tiffany shrieked, her voice cracked. "It means," I said, stepping closer to her, "that I am cutting you off. As of this moment, the trust is closed to you." "You can't do that," David yelled. "We signed the lease on the penthouse. We have the honeymoon booked for tomorrow. Everything is on those cards." "The cards are canceled, David," I said calmly. "The lease was guaranteed by the trust. I withdrew the guarantee 10 minutes ago in the parking lot. You have 30 days to vacate. And as for this party..." I looked around at the lavish decorations. "I've already paid the deposit, but the remaining balance, the alcohol, the extra hours, the service charge, that's due tonight, and I'm not paying it." "But we don't have the money," Tiffany screamed, grabbing David's lapels. "You told me your mother was a nobody. You told me we were set." "I didn't know," David yelled back at her. He turned to me, tears streaming down his face, not tears of sorrow, but tears of a child who just lost his toy. "Mom, please, you can't do this. I'm your son." "I know," I said, and for the first time, my voice broke. A tear slid down my cheek. "You are my son, and I failed you. I failed you by making things too easy, by protecting you from the world so much that you never learned to value people over things. I failed you by letting you think it was okay to treat me like a burden." I reached out and touched his cheek. He leaned into my hand, hopeful. "I love you, David," I whispered. "But I love myself enough not to let you break my heart anymore. You wanted to sit with the rich people? You wanted to live a life of status? Then go earn it, because you won't be getting it from me." I dropped my hand. I turned to Mr. Harrison. "Take me home, Arthur. I'm tired." "Wait." Tiffany lunged at me, her face contorted with rage. "You selfish old witch! You can't leave us like this! I'll sue you! I'll tell everyone!" Mr. Harrison stepped in front of me, blocking her path. "I wouldn't advise that, Mrs. Hughes. I have a recording of your speech, and I have witnesses to your conduct. If you try to sue, I will make sure the legal fees alone bankrupt you before you even step foot in a courtroom." He offered me his arm. "Shall we, Martha?" I took his arm. I held my head high. I didn't look at the floor. I didn't look at the back table near the kitchen. I looked straight ahead. As we walked down the center aisle, the silence was broken, not by applause, but by the sound of whispering. The guests were looking at me differently now. Not with pity, with fear, with respect, with awe. We reached the double doors. I paused and looked back one last time. David was slumped in a chair, head in his hands. Tiffany was screaming at her parents, who looked horrified. The venue manager was walking towards them with a card reader in his hand, looking very unamused. I pushed the doors open and walked out into the cool night air. A sleek, black limousine was waiting at the curb, Arthur's car. The driver opened the door for me. "Where to, ma'am?" the driver asked. I thought about my empty, quiet house, the old couch, the peeling wallpaper. "Take me to the airport," I said. Mr. Harrison raised an eyebrow as he slid in beside me. "The airport?" "Yes," I smiled, leaning back into the soft leather seats. "I've always wanted to see Paris, and I think I'm overdue for a honeymoon with myself." As the car pulled away, leaving the chaos of my former life in the rearview mirror, I didn't feel poor. I didn't feel old. I felt free.